It's looking like the day of woke Hollywood is finally coming to an end, or at least if this article from Bounding into Comics is to be believed. Hollywood Screenwriter explains how woke diversity hires will be out of the job under a new WGA deal. Now, this is talking about Screenwriter who's known on YouTube as Script Doctor, and recently he was on the podcast Midnight's Edge in the morning. During the panel, he was asked a question about whether this is going to hurt writers within the industry, and he basically said, yeah, it's going to hurt a lot of these writers because of the deals that they negotiated with. Basically, what he was saying is most of the veteran writers, the older ones who are more seasoned, they're not buying into the cult of wokeness as a lot of the younger people are. He says that's basically reserved for more of the younger writers. I mean, he says, yeah, some of the older ones are like that, but it's mostly the younger people. And during these strikes, they were the ones who were actually being productive. I mean, they weren't home kind of working on their portfolio, writing scripts or anything like that. They were basically, like, as he says, like on social media or actually on the picket line, getting really enthusiastic about striking. And that's just really not the best time for them, because Hollywood was kind of already contracting before this happened, because there was a big slowdown in the amount of content that they were producing. And this article from Deadline talks about that, where it's saying like during the 2007 strike, studios were looking to actually produce more content. So as soon as the strike opened up, a lot of the writers were being productive when they were on strike and had a bunch of new scripts and pitches for the studios, and the studios were like trying to make up for lost time. They're like, yeah, let's just go, try to produce as much content as we can. And now, not only is the system not like that, where they're not trying to produce stuff, but I mean, it's just the stuff that they're trying to produce, they're being more selective, because we found out that the streaming bubble has kind of burst for a lot of these studios. Because I mean, in the past, a few years ago, when the studios were trying to actually compete with other streaming services, the idea was like, we need to make constant stream of content, so every month there's something new on our platform, so it keeps people resubscribed to the platform, keeps people coming back. And then they realized, like, well, hang on, we don't need to produce 100 new things a year, we just need to produce like a few Stranger Things or something like that, and that's just as good. So they're already going to be more restricted because they can't afford to actually produce as much content as they used to, because COVID hurt them. These strikes hurt them. The last year at the box office hurt them. So they need to be a little bit more careful on what they decide to greenlight. And not only that, certain things like the minimum writing room size is ultimately going to hurt them too, because this is what Script Doctor says, talking about how the showrunner of something that the studio's when the studio's putting together a mini room, they get a showrunner. Well, it says internal executives like Kevin Feige can't be the showrunner. It also gives them a bit of power into who they select for their writing positions in the minimum staffing mini rooms. And that's the union showrunner that they have to bring in. Because when you have an executive producer doing it, they don't necessarily know the quality of writers. They'll just hire people and whatever. But now you have a seasoned writer who has to be the showrunner. So they're selecting their team. And a lot of them aren't going to want to bring in someone, like if the studio is only going to give them like 4 people for the writing room, they're not going to be like, well, I want to hire someone who's a diversity hire. At least that's according to Script Doctor here. They don't want to just hire someone who's just going to check a box and that's it. And those are usually the activist types. Like, you want to bring on someone who can produce quality content. So that's really just going to weed out a lot of the problem. But then also the idea that they're going to be producing less content, because like I said, there's a slowdown in the industry. But also just the simple fact that now you have to hire them for a minimum of 10 weeks or something like that. And when you have that investment, like let's say in the past, the minimum was 5 weeks that you have to hire them for it. Well, yeah, you could hire 2 rooms to produce 2 different scripts in 5-week time frame or whatever. So that equals out to about, you have to pay 10 weeks worth of wages to get 2 different scripts. Well, now you're only going to be paying 10 weeks worth of wages to get 1 new script. So it just makes the whole writing room more expensive for the studio. So they're going to be a little bit more cautious and more careful about when they choose to implement them, and when they actually do bring in those writing room, they're only going to do it for ideas that they think are a little bit more sure. Because in the past they could be a little bit more flippant about it and like, yeah, let's just hire a bunch of writing rooms and keep them going until we finally figure out find one of the scripts that we like and can greenlight it. But they're greenlighting a bunch of things. Now they're going to be not only more restrictive on what they greenlight to continue on to full production, but also just the amount of writing room that they're going to be implementing, because they just cost the studios way more money, and more money than they're willing to spend right now. So it's like I said, I mean, most of us saw this coming from a mile away, because really, I mean, it's just like any other industry. Like once you like artificially increase the wages of the workers, and the supposedly evil studios who, well, okay, maybe I shouldn't air quote there. I mean, these studios are evil. I mean, let's be completely honest, but it's just so ridiculous to the fact that these writers didn't actually try to think like, okay, how are the studios going to look at these contracts that they're signing and figure out a way to screw us? I mean, that's how I would have been looking at it. When I look at the deal that we're going to be getting, or if I was one of the writers, I'd be like, okay, look at this deal that we're voting on, or that we're trying to get. How would someone who's adversarial to me use this against me? What, I mean, how, like, think about it like a monkey paw sort of thing. Like, how is this going to benefit me? Because it says what I want on there, so I want that, but how can this like kind of have like an ironic twist to it? And this is really what it is, and I really don't understand how they didn't see this coming, or maybe some of these older ones do, because I mean, at least Script Doctor says that he thinks some of the older writers who were kind of like working the negotiation maybe saw this coming, because they saw like a lot of these younger writers are like just not pulling their weight. They're not productive. I mean, they've been kind of detrimental to them by like their insistence of the messaging that they're trying to put into everything. So now the studios are clearly seeing like, okay, that stuff doesn't sell. People don't like it. So let's just try to do away with it. And like, what better way than to kind of like pull it up from the root by getting rid of the writers who are pushing this to begin with? I mean, I know some people are going to say like, no, it's the studios pushing it. It's like the studio's involvement in this is more or less cultivating a culture at the studio that allows that sort of thing to happen. But I mean, if that's really not there anymore, then it's eventually going to go away, because now we're seeing a complete meritocracy. And if you're not good quality writers and that's all you have is your activism, then congratulations, you can go back to complaining on social media for your messaging. But now we actually have good writers producing stuff again, or at least maybe that will be the future of this. But let me know what you think about all this in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure you click that like button, share the video, and subscribe to the channel if you want to stay up to date with the latest news. Thank you.